guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. Today we are going to talk about orphan blocks. We're gonna learn the why, the how, and of course, how to make it easier and what to do with them. All right, let's start off with the easy part. What's an orphan block? It's just simply a term for a block that didn't make it into a final quilt. It's unfinished. Also, in my videos, I tend to call these test blocks, okay? So a while back, I talked about the positives of making a test block. That is like, you have a pattern and you're like, this is awesome. I don't know if I want to make the whole thing. I'm gonna just use my scrap fabric and I'm going to make a test block and see if I really want to make a whole quilt. This is also, I started on a quilt pattern, but decided, no, thank you. I don't want to make 20 of these blocks. I'm done, right? So now you have like a block that's made and you spent time on it and it's pretty, but you don't want to make the rest of it, right? So what do? You tuck it behind some books and things and hope maybe you'll get back to it later, right? That's kind of what orphan block, test block, those terms are interchangeable from this point in the video on, okay? So that is what it is, okay? You may have every intention of coming back to that project and going, I'm gonna work on that one day. I'm gonna put it right here in this stack where I can see it and I can remember it, and I'm gonna come back to that one day, but right now it's not the right time. And then what happens over time? You develop quilt guilt. You developed quilt guilt. We've talked about that before. I've got a video that I will link across the top of the screen here that is specifically on quilt guilt. If your eyebrows going up and you're thinking like, is that me? I don't know. Check out that video, watch it. It's got really, really good information in it for you, my friend. Okay, so you've got that laying there and you're like, what should I do with it? Here is how you deal with those orphan blocks and those test blocks, okay? I want you to find a spot in your craft space, your sewing room, the corner of your dining room, or even perhaps where you store your fabric, perhaps a drawer in your dining room, wherever you're at. I want you to find a designated spot for those unfinished blocks, okay? Find a spot for those blocks. We're just gonna put them all in the same place, and that way you don't have to go searching for them. They don't get lost, they don't get separated, because I'm gonna give you some ideas on how you can use those blocks, okay? We're not gonna let them go to waste. We did work on those, right? We learned some skills, we did some practice things, we may have unpicked some seams and then went back in there and redid them again. We worked on those and we're gonna try and get back to those eventually. And this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna put it in the same spot so we know where they are. And when it gets full, we're gonna do something fun with it, okay? So let's talk about things that you can make with the orphan blocks and the test blocks. A lot of blocks you can turn into throw pillows. It's beautiful. If you like the colors of the fabric and you're happy with that, turn it into a pillow. Make it a gift. You can make a small wall hanging quilt, okay? Just a little one block wonder type thing. You can make a table runner. Perhaps if you have like two similar size blocks, you can put one on one end and one on the other and just some solid fabric in the middle. Boom, table runner, a very, very easy project. You could also make a bag or a pouch with that orphan block, okay? Just something very small. Tote bags are perfect for this. That front pocket on the tote bag, use that orphan block and you have a super cute quilty tote bag. You know how I always say, use the back of your quilt to do something fun and non-traditional with. Make it exciting, okay? You don't just throw some fabric on the back of it and call it a day. Use your quilt and make it a 360 design. These orphan blocks can be really, really fun designs on the back of the quilt. Perhaps you made a couple test blocks, or some of the blocks that you made aren't lining up and you had to make some extra ones. Use those on the back of your quilt, incorporate it into the design. If your quilt back is really, really wide and you have to split it down the middle, line some of those blocks up down the center so that you have something interesting on the back that coordinates with the front of your quilt. And the last idea that I'm going to give you for all of those test blocks is this. It's called a kitchen sink quilt or a sampler block quilt. Okay, there's a couple different names for it, but I like the kitchen sink quilt because why? You put in everything but the kitchen sink into this quilt. You just collect things and make it work. Now, I'm well on my way to making my very own kitchen sink quilt, but I'm not quite there yet, okay? So this is like when you see a video of a block on YouTube on, I don't know, maybe my channel. I have lots of ideas on different quilt blocks that you can make, and you just want to try one of them just for the fun of it, but maybe you don't have like an entire quilt planned for it, but you just want to try that technique. Perfect way to build up that stash collection. Now, a kitchen sink quilt is just putting all of those Orphan blocks together, all those test blocks, all of those ideas that you've been doing, and putting it all together in one very, very scrappy, happy quilt, okay? And it turns out just this amazing array of talent, okay? It turns out a little crazy. Yes, you're gonna have to go through and like probably lay it out on your bed or like a design board of some sort, because some of the blocks are gonna be bigger, some of them are gonna be smaller, some of them are gonna be rectangle. You know, there's different size blocks. You may have to kind of fill in some areas with some other solids or something like that to make it work. But if you get enough blocks in your stash, it'll work fine. And that's really, really good way to put those blocks to use. Give them a purpose. Know that as you are collecting them in that one place in your sewing stash that we talked about, that collection will grow and you will eventually have enough to make a really fun kitchen sink block. That's what I'm really trying to do, is I want to make that kitchen sink quilt. So, tips here that I'm going to give you, because I wish I would have thought about this sooner, but I didn't. So I'm going to put this in your head so that maybe you can take this knowledge and go forward and make something really, really fun. In the past, I have just pulled scrap fabric out of my stash, or if I bought extra of the fabric that I was using for the quilt to make this test blocks, I would just use some of that to make the test block. Now, if you know it's going to be a test block and you are thinking in the future, I want to make one of those kitchen sink quilts, right? I want this test block to be used for something. You know, you're thinking towards the future of, this is a test block, but maybe I could use this for a kitchen sink quilt later on, right? Get yourself a set of fabrics or a color palette in mind that all of your test blocks are going to be made to that focus, okay? If that makes sense. Like, for instance, if you want to make all of your test blocks or your ideas, or like, I need to sew this out and try and figure out this block, how it's going to work, whether or not I actually want to make 58 of these little bitty paper piece things, or whether I want to throw it away, but I want to make a test block before I go buy all the fabric for it. Make all of your test blocks in one color palette. Like, say if you did red, white, and blue, or if you're one of those people who just like oohs and ahs over all the purple batiks, okay? Stick with that color palette, because when it comes time for that kitchen sink quilt and you've got a good stash of fabrics in there, good stash of blocks with all kinds of techniques, your stuff is gonna match. You're not going to have to blend like, you know, so-and-so fabric that I got from yard sale number 1 with like the brand new modern fabric with the fabric that you've had for, you know, a couple years now, blended with this scrap t-shirt that you had, okay? You're gonna have all of them already in the right tones, especially if you do like a red, white, and blue, like I said, or you wanna make a Christmas. Christmas fabric is really, really great to do test blocks in. Do you wanna see it in August? I don't know, maybe not. I'm kind of ready for the Christmas season, to be honest. It's usually really, really good to get on sale, the Christmas fabric, right? And if you get, you know, several yards of a bunch of them that coordinate together and you make all of your test blocks out of that, could you eventually have like a really cool Christmas quilt? Yeah, you could. So it'd be really fun. So that's just a couple extra ideas to think about when you are making your test blocks, when you have your Orphan blocks laying around, what you can do with them, some ideas to plan a little bit further ahead in the future. okay, and kind of change your steps now to where you can better prep yourself for when it comes time to sew them all together. It's going to be so much less work. You're not going to have to sew a million different blocks to make this crazy quilt that you're talking about, okay? So that's my 2 cents on test blocks and orphan blocks, how to use them, what to do with them, and what to plan for in the future to make it easier on yourself. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, I share tips, tricks, and tutorials on modern quilting every single week here on YouTube. I also have a blog as well as an online quilting school. If you're brand new to quilting or in the beginning stages and you're on here on YouTube looking up all of these like beginner tutorials and what is this and what is that, go check out the link that I have below in the description box. I have beginner quilting classes and I am happy to help you along your journey into making some gorgeous modern quilts. My name is Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good week. Bye.